This year, I had the amazing opportunity to attend NAB 2023. This year was their 100-year centennial celebration of the trade show. I attended with my good friends over at Zcam as an exhibitor, and I also represented my own production company and post house based here in Michigan. I just have to say before we get into it, if you are a content creator, you own a small production company or a big production company, or just love camera gear, it's 100% worth taking the trip out to Vegas and experiencing the trade show for yourself. It's an unforgettable experience. You get to meet so many cool people, and it definitely invigorates you to keep creating. So keep that in mind. If you want to pull the trigger, go ahead and do it. So I am back with a couple of my favorites that I'm excited to share with you on the innovation that I see coming to the table, from cameras to lenses to lights and to motion control and movement solution systems for our camera rigs. So excited to talk about all of it. So let's dive into what cameras were I excited to see. And of course, there's going to be one. It's not because I'm biased, it's because I'm all about the underdogs. I was very excited to see the Zcam E2-F6 Pro. Now, a lot of you guys have not heard about Zcam, or perhaps it's just in passing or through a YouTube review. But in a lot of ways, they are like Kinefinity. These are two underdog camera brands that bring very high quality imagery to the table at a very affordable price point. The camera I was super excited about seeing was the Zcam E2-F6 Pro and the Zcam E2-F6 Taiji. Talk about that one in a second, but the F6 Pro, right? Difference between the F6 and the F6 Pro, it's all about that professional connectivity. You're going to get your Genlock, you're going to get your built-in time code, and you're going to get your SDI all on the back of the camera. This allows us to be in more professional situations without having to use converters. The other cool thing about the E2-F6 Pro was going to be the display that it comes with. A lot of people were concerned about the HDMI connectivity. Zcam reinforced that. It no longer really concerns me. And the display is just beautiful. I don't know if it's a beautiful display or if there's just some better image processing going on in the E2-F6 Pro, because the render of Zlog 2 in Direct 709 on that display just looks gorgeous. It looks much more refined. The shadow detail on the sensor looks much more pleasing. So we probably have some better refinement on that end as well. Keeping in mind, we don't know what codecs are going to be coming. We do know we're probably going to have H.264, 265, and ProRes 422, as well as ProRes 422 HQ. Hopefully, we can get ProRes 444 for those of you guys who don't want RAW, but want 12-bit, and hopefully we get built-in ProRes RAW or some other RAW solution. The next camera out there that was super cool to see was the Zcam E2-F6 Taiji. Now, Taiji is a form of martial arts, and I think the play on this was that the camera was supposed to be very nimble, like somebody who performs martial arts. Essentially, this is a camera that has had the body of the camera and the sensor separated, and there's simply a cord that connects the two, so you get the image from a tiny little box that can be mounted almost anywhere in these tight spaces, from just car mounts to motorcycles, etc. Then you have a cord that connects to the body that has been shaved down with all the unnecessary metal that's in there, just bare bones processing for the image. That way you can have the body of the camera and the sensor in two completely different places and get into those tight spaces. This is something that is only available through rental on Dark Chamber Media, but we really haven't talked about it in the YouTube sphere. We haven't seen it much just outside of the Facebook group on Zcam. So it's super cool to actually see the capabilities, even when you're looking at this little sensor box and this huge anamorphic lens on top of it. It was just crazy to see overall. Lens bigger than my head, mounted to this little square, but it works, and it's going to bring so many more creative possibilities in these tiny applications. Outside of cameras, let's talk about lighting. My favorite lights, again, not because of partiality, but because I'm all about color science and color accuracy, is going to be the Zolar series of lights. There are no lights on the market as of right now that can touch their color accuracy, especially at their price point. For example, the Zolar Toloman 30S, which we reviewed on the channel, has an SSI reading averaging around 90 to 91 based on our test in the channel throughout all of their Kelvin levels. Furthermore, the TLCI reading, which if you're not sure what that is, it's for special multi-chip broadcast cameras. It's a way for those cameras to measure color accuracy, does not dip below 99 at any Kelvin level. This is actually in contrast to what's on the Zcam board where they put 98 to be conservative, but in our test, it was 99 across the board. Now, SSI, the Spectral Similarity Index, is just a much better way to measure color accuracy instead of the color rendering index that we've come to know, CRI. And it's going to be the new industry standard across the board. You're going to hear a lot more people talking about it. But for just $599 to get that color accuracy and that power out of an LED panel is just crazy. They also had the Vega 30C there, which we're going to review on the channel later, but there were 3 new additions that I'm super excited for. The first one was the Zolar Blade 60C. Now this is a tiny thin LED panel that has a ballast and can be mounted in any tight situation. Again, kind of like the Taiji on the Zcam side, this is for that compactability where you can't really afford to set up a light stand. Not only does it have the power and the color accuracy behind it, but we're finally getting waterproofing into the Zolar line, making it even more competitive with the big dogs, the Airy Sky panels. This remains true for the Vega 80C, which is going to be the competitor for the Airy Sky panel at a fraction of the price. This light panel is of course going to come with waterproofing. I don't quite remember the power output of the light. I will put it on the screen in editing, but the Zolar Vega 60C, which was also released at NAB, is a 500 watt LED panel as well. The only thing that I don't like about the panels themselves outside of the blade is the weight of them. I really like to use C-stands and overhang my lights, and I just have to say, man, I saw the Vega 80C on a metal C-stand and it was bending. And I just wish I had that amount of trust in any relationship that I'm ever in, because man, that the amount of bend in that means we're gonna need more robust equipment when working with these LED panels, but at their price point and their color accuracy, it's a no-brainer. Moving on from lights, let's talk about the glass, which is what I was the most excited to see. And there were 3 companies that caught my eye: DZO Film, SIRUI, and Atlas Lens Co. Now let's start with DZO Film, because they dropped a banger on us, releasing, and congratulations to them, their first ever line of anamorphic lenses called the DZO Film PAVO anamorphic lenses. Now these are a 2 times anamorphic lens. Now the only thing about these lenses in the world of full frame that we're living in is that they are Super 35. Now if we remember DZO's history though, they came out with the Pictor zooms first, which were Super 35. Then they came out with the Vespids, which were full frame. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a full frame lens hit the market soon. Outside of it being a Super 35 lens though, the construction is absolutely gorgeous. There's also some examples if you're wondering what the optics look like outside of the NAB studio by my friend Armando Ferreira. He was able to actually get DZO to lend him the lens and he walked around Vegas and whatnot. You can go ahead and check out his video once you're done watching this one. I've linked it down in the description down below if you want to see some lens samples from that. But overall, super excited, and hopefully we get our hands on some in the studio and we're able to test them. The next set of lenses that I was really kind of shocked to see, and I wasn't really shocked, I guess I was more so shocked by the actual performance because I haven't used them, were the Saturn lenses by SIRUI. Now these are full frame anamorphic lenses, and what impressed me about these lenses were 2 things. One, they had a neutral flare, which means they're going to take on whatever color the light source is. That was something I really liked about the lenses. It was just different, added different characteristic to the lens itself and the image that it produced. But the other thing was its lack of focus breathing. And the focus breathing, I didn't notice it, but apparently on the lower focal length, it's very minimal. When you get to the larger focal lengths, it's actually non-existent according to the SIRUI rep. So I'm also excited to get those lenses into the studio as well, create some type of short form content with them, and then review them for you guys so you can see exactly how they perform. But here's the thing, although SIRUI had their lenses, what was really impressive is that they're focusing and moving into the lighting market, giving us even more competition. They actually had an exhibit, I should say, at the Sony booth, or I should say the Sony headquarters, the mini headquarters they had set up at NAB in the corner. But they have these amazing light tubes that they are just now introducing into the market. And this was in combination with an exhibit at Sony where they have multi-cameras that basically scan your body and then create a 3D representation of you with some camera and software magic. But these light tubes overall just look amazing. Hopefully we get those in the studio as well for a full review. But it's just awesome to see more companies not only diversifying, but just adding more competition with great price to performance value into the market. We definitely need that in the economy we're in. It's definitely going to help out the smaller creator/production company. Outside of that, let's talk about our friends over at Atlas Lens Co. So I got to see their Orion series of lenses, and let me tell you, they're as beautiful as you could imagine. The rendering, the characteristics, everything about the lenses, just chef's kiss. Can't complain about it at all. But what I was excited to see was the Atlas Mercury, which has not been released yet. It's going to ship in 2023. It was on the E2-F6 Pro that we had over at the Zcam booth. And that lens just has a beautiful characteristic as well. The one thing I did notice about the Atlas Mercuries, and I don't know if this was a production unit or a final unit that's going to go onto the market, but I was a little bit shocked by the amount of focus breathing on that lens. Now, that's not something I'm going to complain about. It just kind of like, ooh, that was noticeable. But we have to understand that the way focus breathing works on a spherical lens versus an anamorphic lens is not the same. We were using it wide open at, I believe, T2.1. So that can cause some problems in that aspect as well. The more you stop it down, the less that's going to be noticeable, but it's really about that bokeh shift that you see, more so than the lens actually focus breathing. But that was another cool addition into the lens lineup. So those are the three companies I would keep an eye out for at the moment. The Saturns are already on the market. The PAVO anamorphics were announced at NAB, and the Mercuries are going to start shipping soon, and they are available for pre-order. All the links are going to be in the description down below. Moving on into camera movement solutions, let's talk about MRMC, Mark Roberts Motion Control. Now, if you haven't heard of them, they are a Nikon company. They are not Nikon. They do not work that closely with Nikon. From the way it was described to me, it seems more like a parent company situation, but they are owned by Nikon. MRMC focuses mostly on broadcast camera movement solutions, such as those robots that you may see at a news station that can move the camera around, zoom in, all from a remote place, to robotic camera arms. They actually have their own competition to the GlamBot. That being said, they did have a product that I think would be really cool on the cinematography side, and that is the Titan slider. Now, this isn't just your everyday slider. This is a motorized slider. It has its own power supply. It's very easy to set up with just using two C stands, not the actual C stand C parts, but just the vertical stands. And it has its own interface for robotic movements as well. Now, these movements are super fluid with precise control, and that's the big selling point of these Titan sliders. Hopefully, again, we're able to get some of those in the studio. But what really interested me was their computer software that actually will track the human in the frame or the subject in the frame and follow it around with the camera slider as well. So I could see some really cool creative possibilities with that in just individual content creator situations when you're solo, products, etc. So many awesome opportunities to come with that. They also had it hooked up with the Nikon Z9. And with that, I want to talk about our good friends over at IntoPIX. They are the company that created Tico RAW, which powers Nikon RAW. You guys know I did a video about Nikon RAW, really breaking down the situation of RAW in the industry, the red patent, how it's affecting the industry, and the person behind a lot of the compression techniques used on red side, which is Gail Roy. He is the CEO of IntoPIX. And to my surprise, he knew who I was. I just want to mention, we had a really great conversation knowing that TicoPIX is actually very solid in their patents with Tico RAW. The thing that makes Tico RAW really nice is that it's very customizable when it comes to bandwidth, resolution, and color. So it's gonna bring the power of RAW, assuming it gets more adopted into the industry, to smaller and smaller cameras. Just being able to shoot on Tico RAW 8K on the Z9, but only being able to go up to, I believe, 6K in ProRes RAW already shows how it's ahead of ProRes RAW, which was at the moment our newest RAW solution that was real RAW. The compression that's available, the bandwidth, just really cool to see over at their booth. So that's going to be something coming to the software side that I think we should keep our eyes out with as the years go on. Lastly, let's talk about camera rigging solutions. And the company that really won my heart was not any of the big companies, but it was actually a rather small company named Nitze. And what I really appreciated about Nitze was not only the options that they currently have, but the way in which they used NAB to really connect with the customer. Jaden did such a good job of really asking, what do you shoot with and what is it that you need? And that's why I like a lot of these smaller companies, because it really gives them an opportunity to communicate with people on an individual basis, find out what you need, and bring it to the cinematographer or the creator to make their life easier. Their product selection also did not disappoint. They had cages for any camera system that you can think of, from Blackmagic Design, Zcam, Sony, the Canon C70, you name it, it was probably there. They also had a very wide selection of handles and ways to mount those handles, whether you wanted to have a NATO rail mounting solution or simply a screw into the cage mounting solution, as well as tons of NATO rail accessories, Erie Rosette accessories. And the thing that I really liked the most is the way in which they're designing their cages to get rid of the things that we don't necessarily need to have, or extra things we could add to our rig, I should say. For example, when you use rods for your follow focus, sometimes you have to get an additional assembly. Not sometimes, but most of the times you have to get an additional assembly to actually mount onto the cage to then put the rods into. Nitze is designing cages where they have these screw-in rods, and that allows you to replace that unnecessary bulk on the cage and keeps everything in a nice form factor. They also had cages for your monitors, for Atomos, port keys, Blackmagic Design, and Small HD. So they're really becoming well-rounded and growing a lot and just giving you a lot of rigging accessories. That being said, if you like this video, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. If you're not, let me know in the description down below. What was your favorite thing to see at NAB if you attended? What are you excited to see out of what I talked about to hit the market? And guys, just thank you for being amazing. Follow me on social media and the YouTube fam. The links are in the description down below. And remember, if you are ever feeling uninspired, uncreative, or just want to give up on life, every day airplanes take off against the wind. Keep climbing, stay inspired, and as always, stay fabulous. I'm Sydney. I'll see you beautiful people next time. Peace out.